On the night Jesus was crucified, he washed his disciples' feet. He washed all of their feet. He washed Peter's feet, knowing that Peter would deny him that night in his most urgent time of need. He washed Judas's feet, knowing that Judas would betray him and deliver him to the people who would eventually murder him that night. He washed all their feet. And he washed their feet because he loved them with the kind of love that he tells us that we have to have. In John chapter 13 and verse 34, he says, "A new commandment that I give to you." Jesus has already commanded us to love, right? We're supposed to love God with our heart, soul, and mind, and love our neighbor as ourselves. Remember that commandment? But this is a new commandment that he's given them. "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another." Well, that's something that we've heard before. We love our neighbor as ourselves. No. The new commandment says, love one another just as I have loved you. You are also to love one another. By this people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. It's not good enough to just love your neighbor as yourself anymore. We have to love as Jesus loved. What a lesson for Peter that night. Knowing that Jesus loved him and Jesus served him, knowing that Peter would fail him later that night. What a lesson for all of the disciples in that room, knowing that Jesus washed the feet of Judas, knowing that later that night, only a few hours later, Judas would deliver Jesus to ultimately be murdered. And that definition, that identity that Jesus gives to the men in that room to say, this is how people are going to know you, by this kind of love. Not loving your neighbor as yourself, not doing unto others as you would have people treat you, but having a servant love for people who don't like you. Serving people who are mean to you. That's how people will know you're a Christian. In 1 John chapter 4, verse 7, it says, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. And anyone who does not love does not know God, for God is love." If we want to know God, we have to love people. If we want to be a Christian, we have to love people. If we want the world to know we're a Christian, we have to love people. And loving people takes on a new meaning when Jesus gives it meaning, doesn't it? Loving people means loving the people who don't love us. Love means serving the people who want to hurt us. That's the kind of love Jesus had. And aren't we so glad that he had that love for us, in that while we were yet sinners, he died for us. What a great kind of love Jesus had. What a great servant he was to give his life for us. And I'm so grateful for that. And we can all try to love each other better, try to love our neighbors better, and try to take on more and more of this mantle that Christ has given us. I hope you can do that this week. I'm challenging you to love more, to serve more, and I hope you challenge me and pray for me to love and serve better as well. I love you all. Have a great week.